30 memorable quotes from film A Man for All Seasons, 1966, Part 3. A Man for All Seasons. Directed by Fred Zinnemann and adapted from Robert Bolt's acclaimed play, is a profound historical drama that chronicles the moral and spiritual struggle of Sir Thomas More, the English statesman who opposed King Henry VIII's separation from the Catholic Church. The film is set in 16th century England during a turbulent period when the king seeks to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon in order to marry Anne Boleyn and secure a male heir. When the Pope refuses the annulment, Henry declares himself head of the Church of England. More, played with dignity and nuance by Paul Scofield, in an Oscar-winning performance, refuses to endorse the king's actions or take the oath of supremacy. His silence is interpreted as treason, and he is ultimately imprisoned and executed. Throughout the film, More remains steadfast in his conscience and faith, becoming a symbol of integrity and resistance to tyranny. With a stellar cast including Robert Shaw, Henry VIII, Orson Welles, and Wendy Hiller, the film won 6 Academy Awards including Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Director. It stands as a timeless reflection on the conflict between personal conscience and political power. I am the king's good servant, but God's first. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, when a man takes an oath, he's holding his own self in his own hands, like water. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, it is not for the supremacy that you have sought my blood, but because I would not bend to the marriage. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, what matters is that I believe it, or rather, no, not that I believe it, but that I believe it. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, this isn't Spain, you know. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, silence gives consent. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, why Richard, it profits a man nothing to give his soul for the whole world, but for Wales. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, the law is not a light for you or any man to see by. The law is not an instrument of any kind. The law is a causeway upon which, so long as he keeps to it, a citizen may walk safely. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, I do none harm. I say none harm. I think none harm. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, when statesmen forsake their own private conscience for the sake of their public duties, they lead their country by a short route to chaos. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, I die His Majesty's good servant, but God's first. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, every man has his price. And quote, Thomas Cromwell. And quote, Sir Thomas More is a man of an angel's wit and singular learning. And quote, Thomas Cromwell. And quote, the nobility of England would have snored through the Sermon on the Mount. And quote, Thomas More. And quote, 2 years ago you were a passionate churchman, now you're a passionate Lutheran. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, I have not disobeyed my sovereign. I truly believe no man in England is safer than myself. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, the world must construe according to its wits. This court must construe according to the law. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, to avoid this I have kept my silence. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, the law is a great thing. And quote, Sir Thomas More. And quote, God made the angels to show him splendor, and the animals for innocence, and the plants for their simplicity. But man he made to serve him wittily in the tangle of his mind. And quote, Sir Thomas More. and quote, some men think the earth is round. Others think it flat. It is a matter capable of question, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, I'm not a scholar, I'm just a plain simple man, and quote, William Roper, and quote, you should go where your heart leads you. You're going nowhere fast, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, this is a lion I am trying to trap, not a mouse, and quote, Thomas Cromwell, and quote, I know what I'm about. I'm a plain, straightforward man and I know what I want, and quote, King Henry VIII, and quote, do you know the extent of your treachery, and quote, Thomas Cromwell, and quote, I have long suspected this. This is the golden calf, the idol of the times, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, I trust I make myself obscure, and quote, Sir Thomas More, ironically, and quote, we speak of being practical, but really it is just being expedient, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, I think that when statesmen forsake their own private conscience for the sake of their public duties, they lead their country by a short route to chaos, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, there is no law that can touch me, and quote, Thomas Cromwell, and quote, this country's planted thick with laws, from coast to coast, and if you cut them down, and you're just the man to do it, do you really think you could stand upright in the winds that would blow then, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, then the law's a bad apple. We must destroy it, and quote, Thomas Cromwell, and quote, you have no more right to go to heaven than I have to go to hell, and quote, William Roper, and quote, your conscience is your own affair, but you are expected to render obedience, and quote, Thomas Cromwell, and quote, Parliament has not the competence to make me take an oath against my conscience, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, a man who will go along with anything to get along with everyone has no place here, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, I think we should look at the law not as a hurdle to get past, but as a path to stay on, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, what is an oath but words we say to God, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, your conscience is your own. You must do what you think right, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, you see, we speak of subtle matters here, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, we must just pray that when your head's off, your heart may be light, and quote, executioner, dark humor, and quote, I can't go against my own conscience. That's the only thing I have left, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, this is not the Spain of the Inquisition, and quote, Sir Thomas More, and quote, my master Thomas More would give the devil benefit of law for his own safeties. Sake, and quote, William Roper, and quote, better a live rat than a dead lion, and quote, commoner, and quote, you're behaving like a fool, and quote, Margaret More, and quote, it's perilous to be virtuous nowadays, and quote, Alice More, and quote, you've made your choice, your pride has done it, and quote, Alice More, and quote, it isn't difficult to keep silent. It's just not speaking, and quote, Sir Thomas More,